Welcome to my channel, Lesson Mentor. In this tutorial, I'll be showing you how you can execute the deliverables for this assignment. If you have not seen the video directions, you can click on the link above to get a thorough understanding of the objective of this assignment. Then you can come back and watch this tutorial to execute your deliverables for this project. To continue with our exploration of gradients and how we can use those in designs, this particular project will incorporate gradient into your completed project. I have the directions open and standing nearby so that I can reference those if I need to. For document number 1, it needs to be 11 inches in width by 8.5 inches in height. And the second document you create, you'll do a new document and set that up as 1080 pixels by 1080 pixels, which is your standard 1:1 social media size. You will turn both of those documents into Google Classroom. So here we have a completed example, and I'm going to show you how to create something similar. Here are my layers so that you can have a brief look at my layers panel and see how this one was executed. And we're just going to go back and recreate this. So on a new tab, I'm just going to label this one New Planet 2. And my width is 11 inches and my height will be 8.5 inches, which gives me landscape mode. This is not for print. This will be for just web use. So my resolution is set to 72. If you are going to be using this for print materials, you do want to change your resolution to 300 pixels per inch. I'm in RGB color mode and my background is currently set to white. That's fine. I'll go ahead and click create. All of my references for my shortcuts are done for a Mac, laptop, or computer. If you're working on Windows, all of your shortcuts will be using the Control key. Here we see my document. I will zoom in a little bit because I do enjoy having a larger size canvas. So Command plus, or on a Windows, that would be Control plus. And I will unlock my background layer. To get started with my background, I'm just going to pick the color for the background itself. I could have started the document in that color, but if you're not sure how to change that, you can just add an adjustment layer. Then I will go to solid color. I don't want it to be just stark black. I want it to have a little bit of gray in the background. And so I'm just going to bring that value up a bit. And kind of a blackish gray color. And click OK. Now I'm ready to bring in my shape because I want to have a planet and I don't want it to cover the entire page, but I also don't want it to have a circle just smack dab in the middle. I'm going to offset that by using my ellipse tool. In the prior assignment, we created gradients, but you can also create gradients as shapes without having to use the clipping mask to do so. So with the ellipse tool selected, and if yours is showing a different shape, just left click and hold it and switch to the ellipse tool. Now that I have the ellipse, I just need to go to my fill and select my fill color. Now this step, instead of opening my color picker and picking a color, if I select the gradient, which is pretty cool, I can go straight to the gradient for my shape. So if I select gradient, and I already have the color for my gradient selected, but you could open up a preset, or you could set your own gradient colors by selecting your foreground and your background color and creating your own gradient. Okay, if you are curious what those colors are and want the exact colors that I have, I will share them with you now. Here's the color value for that light blue color, and here is the color for this pink color. If you type that into your color picker, then you can find these colors as well. And click OK. I have not added any additional stops here. And currently my background gradient is set to linear. I could open this box and switch to radial, angle, reflected, or diamond. I will leave mine at linear. So now if I draw out my shape, and I'm just going to fill my page with this ellipse. If I want it to be perfectly straight, if I hold shift while I stretch it, it will hold its dimensions here. You can pick which style gradient you want. So if you don't want to use linear, you can change that, or you can change it for your second design. So now I have my shape, and I do want to stretch it off the page a bit. So I'm going to hold shift and stretch it out some more. And I will grab my move tool and move it off the page a bit. I'm going to zoom out so we can see that a little better. Okay, so with my shape, I am leaving a bit of space from the top, and I have my shape all the way down to the bottom and off the page a bit. There is a bit of narrow space here to the left for the background, and I think I'm safe to move this over just a little bit further. If you are unable to stretch your shape, just make sure that when you have your Move tool selected, you have the Show Transform control box checked. So with the Ellipse tool selected, I will go down to Effects and open up my Satin option. Currently, it's set to Lighten for the blend mode. I want to change that to Linear Burn. Now we can see that we've got this darker area in the middle and it's kind of lighter on the outside. But if the angle is not like I want, I can change that and have the angle coming from a different location. And if you have your preview box checked, you'll see what's happening to your layer as you are clicking on it. So I'll move this over a little bit further, and you can see how that's changing that effect. I'll leave mine at 90 degrees and then just adjust my distance to be a little closer to the edge. And my size, I'm going to bring it in so it's blurred a little bit. When I feel like it looks good, then I will click OK. And my opacity is at 30% before I close it. So you can see what would happen if I increase the opacity. I'm content with this, and I can click OK. I don't want this glow in the corner here, so I'm going to just stretch out my circle a little bit more until that corner is hidden. And click the check mark. Okay, so I could have left that box open with my effects on it and gone over to Outer Glow. Or if you've already closed that box, you can go back to Effects and open up your options. And I'm going to open Outer Glow. Now, if I click on Outer Glow, we can see that it's added this kind of blue color to the outside of the circle. Mine is currently set to this light blue glow. If you want to see what that color is, here is the call number for that. And click OK. And my blend mode is set to normal. My opacity is at 69, 0% noise. I'm at 6% spread and 40% pixels here. You can look at all of these settings, or you can adjust them to make them your own. And I will click OK. Now that I have that done, I do want my planet to have a ring around it. So I'm going to use another ellipse and set that to a couple of different colors. So with the ellipse tool selected, I'm going to use this blue and this light blue here for that. And I will click that. And now I'm just going to draw out another ellipse. And I want it to be a little bit flat so it looks more like a ring. And I can always move it when it's drawn. So use my move tool, and I can move that over, and I can also stretch that out and click the check mark. So that does not look great, right? And that's because it should be blurred. So what I can do is select my ellipse and then go up to Filter, go to Blur, and Gaussian Blur. It is going to convert this to a smart object, and now I can see how it's blurring that ellipse. I can increase or decrease the amount of blur to get the effect that I want. And I don't want it to look like an ellipse per se, so I'm just going to kind of cycle through the radius of that blur until I get something that looks more like the ring of a planet. And I like how that looks, so I'm at 21.9 pixels on my blur. And click OK. Okay, so with that done, I need the title of the show, which is called New Planet, and then the tagline is A Journey Like No Other. With my type tool, I'm going to pick the type style that I want. I am using Nouveau Grotesque from the Adobe Font Library. You could use an already preset installed Adobe font would be fine. You could, just to get the hang of this, just open up Arial or Arial Bold. That would work fine. And I'm going to type the word new planet. I'm just going to bring my text box in so that I can stretch this proportionally. Then I'll click the check mark. With my move tool selected, I'm going to come down by the ring of the planet, and I'm just going to grab the corners and stretch this out so that kind of stretches from the ring to the edge of the planet. About there looks pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and create a new layer on top of my new planet layer. So click the new layer icon, and here I'm going to do another gradient, and this time I'm going to go to the regular gradient tool and decide what colors I want to use for this. I'm going to go back to the blues, and I'm going to choose this lighter blue color here for my gradient. And if you want to see what that value looks like, here it is on this side. And here it is on the right side. And on this layer, I will pick reflected gradient, and I'm just going to draw kind of a line, and I'm not sure what it's going to look like exactly, so I'm just going to draw out a line and get it a little closer. I like how that looks, so I want to clip my gradient layer to my new planet layer. The keyboard shortcut for that is just holding Option on my keyboard and going in between those lines and getting that down arrow to pop up. Then if I left click with my mouse, it will clip to my planet layer. I could have right-clicked and gone to Create Clipping Mask, and that would have allowed me to have clipped that to the text layer as well. I do like how we have this kind of glow going from left to right here. I'm going to zoom in a little bit, and we can see that a little better. So with my new planet layer selected, if I go to Effects, I'm going to go to Bevel and Emboss. I can adjust that particular layer style. We have these different types of bevels that we can do: outer, inner, emboss, pillow emboss, and stroke. You can go through each one of those and see which one you like. I will leave mine on outer bevel, and my technique is smooth, and I can adjust the depth, and we can see how that changes my layer style, and you can see it here in the preview box as well. Size, you can see what that looks like with size, and you can soften it. Okay, I'm currently in shadow mode of multiply, but you could also see what the other modes look like. Based on what colors you have in your design will determine how the shadow modes interact with your design. I'm going to leave mine at overlay, and I'm just going to set the opacity a little higher here at 57% for this one. And I will click OK. So now I will pick a new font style, and I'm going to draw out a text box here. So I have my text box, and I'm going to switch to Basic Sans for my font style. You can find something similar to that if you don't have it. And I will draw out a new box. I'll change my font to 24. Then I will type out a journey like no other. And click the check mark. Then I want to bring that down and likely just stretch it out a bit. I think that looks rather good. Now I'll just add a drop shadow to my text. Go to Effects and Drop Shadow, and I can make any adjustments that I need. If I like how that looks, I will click OK. I think I have met the requirements for this one, and it looks pretty good in my opinion. And before I show you how to export your documents as a PNG file, don't forget to complete the communication document to your client explaining or outlining how you're going to complete their project. You will submit that document along with your 2 separate completed digital files to your teacher. Let's finish exporting those documents. You will create a second one of your own and try to mix it up a little bit. Maybe you decide what it would look like if they were actually on the planet. Just remember to reference your project brief in order to make sure that you're meeting the client's requirements. Submit 2 files on Google Classroom, and you will export that by going to File, Export, and you can quickly export this as a PNG file by default, or you could go to Export As and set the document dimensions if you needed to do so. And you'd have your format here as PNG or JPEG in that instance, and you would click Export. And I could call this New Planet 2, and I could call this one A, and then I would call the next one New Planet 2, maybe B. I could save that so that would be ready to upload to Google Classroom. Here is that completed file that your client would get. See your teacher with any questions.